No, I'll see him alone. Well, it's not like he can hurt me, is it? You've sealed him in a giant plastic cube. It'll be fine. You can all clear off and let me get on with it. Thanks.
Who's that? Where did the security people go?
It's me, Jack.
John Carnack?
Jack Doyle.
What on earth are you doing here?
I came to see you. I heard about your trouble.
Well, it's very decent of you. I'd shake your hand, but I've been locked in a plastic box.
Well, people are worried about contamination.
Oh, that's why you're here. Not to see me, to take a look for the Department of Midnight.
I really wish people would stop calling it that.
The Department of Experimental Oversight has no standing here, John.
That remains to be seen.
John, I tripped over and spilled some stuff at Edward Manning's house. I wasn't in a lab. I wasn't performing experiments. And you know why I tripped and knocked things over, right?
Because you just found Edward Manning's body.
Because I just discovered the dead body of my employer, mentor, friend, Professor Edward Manning. It was shocking. And I knocked some apparatus over. And now, instead of being able to grieve over Professor Manning and attend to his affairs, I've been sealed up in this stupid thing!
Yeah, and you were found semi-conscious and babbling on the floor next to him.
Perhaps I fainted. It's not every day you trip over a dead man.
We have very different days. Thing is, Jack, whatever Manning was doing at home, it was dangerous.
It absolutely was not. Professor Manning was scrupulous, detail-oriented.
It was, and you got exposed to it.
Bullshit!
Okay. So, you know what dark matter is, right?
Some theoretical matter that supposedly fills all the gaps in the universe. Cosmologists love publishing nonsense papers about it. So, just like everybody else, I basically know nothing about it.
Dark matter, Jack, is the fifth form of matter. It's how the universe stores information. And forgive me, my old mate, but I think you know more about it than you think you do.
The Bellport Theatre on the Air presents The Department of Midnight, created and written by Warren Ellis. Episode 102, Jack in the Box, starring James Callis and Gildart Jackson.
I know that dark matter cannot be detected, so if you're positing that I have somehow been exposed to dark matter contamination, that's ludicrous on its face.
Jack, it's me. John, you don't have to talk to me like you're filling in for Manning on the fucking lecture circuit.
I don't know what you mean.
We've known each other for years, Jack. Don't talk to me like I'm a stranger. I want to get you out of there.
So unlock the damn thing.
Not yet.
What are you waiting for? I've been here 8 hours already, according to that clock up there. Where am I, anyway? This looks like a school sports hall.
Well, actually it is. We had to move fast, so we got access and set the isolation pod up in here. It had the necessary space.
So where are the children? Did they all get given a day off school?
Jack, the schools are on summer break.
Well, how's that supposed to know that?
Because you have kids.
Sorry, I'm stressed.
Yeah, sure, of course.
I'm fine, John.
Well, let's make sure of that, okay? I'm here to make sure you get back to your family in one piece.
All right, let's just get on with it then.
Okay. So, why were you at Manning's house?
He didn't come into the lab, and he wasn't answering his phone.
You have keys to his home?
I'm his senior assistant and his friend. Of course I had keys.
But did you know he was ill?
He kept it from us. He was the sort of man who didn't like to worry people unduly.
Well, that surprises me.
Why?
Because I met him twice and he was a nasty piece of shit both times.
Maybe he just didn't like you.
He certainly didn't like me. Or anyone else.
Well, he was good to me. I owe him everything.
You really don't, you know. You're a brilliant scientist in your own right. You run Manning's lab.
But Professor Manning was a genius. I learned so much, John.
I'm sure you did. He was a clever old bastard. Well, what's your wife's cell phone number?
I couldn't tell you, John, but remembering my wife's cell phone number isn't my job.
No, okay. I need to check in with your wife after this, and I couldn't for the life of me remember. Why was Manning running experiments at home?
There's no law against it. He was always pursuing several different lines of inquiry at the same time, and I doubt any of them had to do with dark matter.
Well, that's where you're wrong, because I've seen the room he was found in. Do you remember what I did at Wardenclyffe in New Jersey?
No.
Really? It's interesting. What are your kids' names again?
I don't think we were ever really so close that I knew all your jobs and travels, John. Or that I would ever tell you my children's names.
Really? Okay. You could just answer the question.
You could just ask the real questions and get this over with so I can leave. I'm not playing games here. I really don't appreciate the way you're treating me, John.
Sir, at the lab you and he ran, you were working on what? Neural networks, right?
Reductive, but close enough, I suppose.
And at home, Manning was playing with neural probes.
Oh, not really. You need a surgical unit and a robot for that. Inserting ultra-thin needles into human brains really isn't a homebrew kind of project.
Jack, I've seen what Manning was doing. He didn't need physical probes. He also had a dark matter attractor in his home.
There's no such thing.
Yeah, I'm afraid there is. What's your mother's name? All right. Why don't you tell me what a connectome is?
A complete map of neural connections in the brain. The mind's wiring diagram, if you like.
The information that describes a unique human mind.
Yes, that's what we believe.
Well, here's what I believe. Manning read out his own connectome at home using sensitive electromagnetic fields instead of needles. Quite brilliant.
If you say so.
I do. I also think that he was aware of the experiments conducted at Wardenclyffe a few years ago that established that what we call dark matter is actually a medium that contains information. It's the fifth form of matter.
How would he be aware of that? He didn't read fringe nonsense.
Because I helped design the dark matter attractor he built at home. What's your mother's name, Jack? What's your wife's name? What are your children's names?
Would you please just stop?
Where do you live, Jack? Did you know Manning was dying?
No, not at all. He was a very private man.
So he died alone at home. And you were the one most likely to find him. So he set a little trap for you. He collected dark matter, suspended his own connectome in it, and arranged things so you'd trip the transference circuit he set up in the room he died in. You don't know Jack's mother's name, or his wife's, or his kids'. Because if there's one thing I do know about you, it's that you never found other people very interesting. I'd really like it if you'd stop pretending to be Jack Doyle now. Professor Manning.
I'm almost relieved. Trying to make Jack sound like himself was becoming quite the strain.
Finally.
What is his mother's name? I don't believe he ever mentioned her.
Oh, he never knew. He was raised by his Aunt Halber.
You arsehole.
So, if I've guessed right, you've literally managed to lay your own connectome over Jack's and taken control of his brain and body. That's one for the books.
Oh, I doubt there'll be a book, Carnack.
Maybe I'll write it.
Oh, no. You're going to be gone soon enough. Listen. Look closely at the plastic between us.
Ah, I see. It's freezing.
Dark matter is strange stuff. I seem to remain perfectly viable, but everything around me seems to be getting very cold.
Well, in folklore, cold areas are associated with hauntings.
Yes, well, I can't speak to fairy tales, but when I discovered that what we call dark matter is in fact just low-temperature, low-energy storage mediums for information...
Oh, you discovered that, did you?
It was implied by the Wardenclyffe papers, but I did the work. It was obvious, really. If nothing in the universe is truly destroyed, but we can't find its traces, what does it leave behind? It's information. Encoded in dark matter, which is undetectable by normal means. Problem solved.
Yes, it sounds familiar. You live up to your reputation, Professor Manning.
I do have some small standing in the scientific community.
For being a colossal galloping knob-end.
You won't have time to regret saying that. But it does remove any residual guilt I might experience at what happens next.
What happens next?
You'll see.
Why did you do it? Why did you outright plan to hijack your friend's body?
To escape death, obviously. Are you a complete moron?
I think you're missing my point.
Oh, you mean, why would I harm poor little Jack in this terrible way? Blanketing off his mind and covering it with my own, you self-righteous whining little shit.
Yeah, something like that.
Jack Doyle was an employee. A good one, mind. I'm not disrespecting his ability.
Just his body.
You are missing my point. I have cheated death. Death no longer applies. I am fully alive in Jack's body. I have changed the world. We make sacrifices and experimentation all the time in order to change the world. This time the sacrifice was his.
Well, you didn't give him a choice.
Do we ever? Did you? Yes, Dr. Carnack, I know a little bit about who you are.
I never set out to deliberately harm anyone. You basically set up an animal trap for Jack and injected yourself into his head like poison. You knew he'd be the one to find you.
Well, I hope so. I was terrified it'd be the cleaning lady. She has a wooden leg.
So you wouldn't have got far on foot.
Perhaps. I must say, I feel very mobile in here. I can see the weak electromagnetic fields of your brain. Do you understand? I can see electromagnetic auras now.
Congratulations, you're dead Superman.
And I can feel that I can connect to weak fields and overwhelm them.
Dark matter tends not to like strong electromagnetic fields. They dispel it, and it scatters and goes dormant.
Huh. That makes sense. It's that thing when you see paper and know instinctively that you can crumple it. The sense of something being fragile to your touch. Quite fascinating. I am dead, but I live again. I remain human, and yet more than human.
You've stolen a man's life. You've become a parasite. No more. And no less.
There's a fungus in the Blue Mountains of Oregon that occupies 2,000 acres and is estimated to be some 8,000 years old. Does it matter that it grows on dead things? It is alive. Forever.
I'm assuming you've given up getting out of that box.
Not really. I'm currently thinking I will write your book for you. Give humanity the solution for death, eventually. Once I've done some more experiments, perhaps 50 years from now. Although by the looks of you, you may not have 50 more years in you.
Whoops.
Indeed. One good push and this whole plastic window will shatter.
Well, that'll bring the security team running back in.
Not soon enough. When I make contact
connect with you, I will be able to transfer from Jack to you, and then you and I will walk out of here and leave Jack on the floor.
Well, thanks for telling me your ghostly mushroom evil plans.
Alive forever.
How do you like my strong electromagnetic field? Yeah, I remembered my taser this time.
Oh, fuck you! John! John, it's me!
You sure?
John, it's Jack, really?
What are your kids' names?
Abel and Belinda.
Okay. But one more for luck, right?
Next time on the Department of Midnight.
I would have thought there was a rule about doing your own mother's autopsy.
Yeah, that's what the guy at the lab said.
Yeah? What do you say to him?
If he kept talking, he'd be next on the slab, and I'd do his autopsy while he was still alive.
Fair enough. God, this whole place feels like it died with her.
Yeah, there's something really unsettling about it now. Like, there's something in the walls.
So, the autopsy. What did you find?
It looked for all the world like part of her brain had melted.
The Department of Midnight is produced by Warren Ellis, Brian Gucciardo, Kevin and Diane Kolde, Fred Seibert. Main title and credit narration by Gildart Jackson. Casting and voice direction by Meredith Layne, CSA. Main title and score by Trey Toy. Dialogue editors Kevin and Diane Kolde. Recording coordinator Kathy Cavaiola. Dialogue recorded at Salami Studios. Lead dialogue mixer Mark Mercado. Assistant dialogue mixers Jonathan Bradley and Chris Story. Audio post-production provided by Salami Studios. Post-audio supervisor Peter DiRado. Sound design and editorial Paul Menichini, MPSE. Re-recording mixer Sean Jacobson. The Department of Midnight is a production of the Bellport Theatre on the Air. All rights reserved.